So I'm sure most of you have seen my video on Tenpenny Tower if you're getting this video on your For You page. It kind of blew up and I got a lot of support and a lot of genuinely nice comments from people who enjoyed it. So I really do appreciate everyone who took the time to watch it, left a comment, or even subscribed because of it. But ultimately, whenever a video gets a little bit of traction, you inevitably summon a specific type of animal, the terminally online Redditor, who cannot encounter an opinion that they disagree with without immediately reaching for the nuclear option. They left their very refined and nuanced takes such as, "You're a Nazi." Yes, these are comments under a video about a Fallout 3 quest. Seriously, if you found this video and haven't watched my Tenpenny Tower video, go watch it and tell me if it strikes you as a fascist manifesto. I won't deny that I have certain right-wing opinions, but the accusations that were thrown at me were laughable. I say I don't think siding with ghouls who want to invade other people's home and murder them is the moral choice, and I am met with, "Whatever you say, fascist." I also got some comments actually criticizing my take, which I will also address, so the video isn't solely about these insane comments from Redditors. There are people who genuinely disagreed with my argument, and that is completely fine. If you think I'm wrong, tell me why I'm wrong. Make an argument, explain your position. That's what normal civil people do. But apparently on the other side of the aisle, there's a very different code of conduct. The moment you disagree with an insane leftist take like everyone who has a prejudice, opinion, or fear of another group deserves to die, they don't see you as a person they disagree with. They see you as the literal worst type of person that they can imagine in their worldview. A Nazi. And if you think I'm being hyperbolic with my steelman of their position, go watch my previous video. The guy who I made that video in response to literally says that he can't blame the ghouls for killing the innocent residents in the tower because they are racist. Which again, they aren't, but I'm not going to repeat the same arguments I made in my last video, because you can go watch that video if you want the full breakdown. So this first guy asks, "Why are there so many fascists in your comments?" And he totally misrepresents a reply explaining it, though in the reply the guy uses very convoluted wording, so I understand why he would not understand what a small PhD is saying. So I'll try to make it more concise and easier to understand. The replier makes the assertion that Devin's original Tenpenny Tower is morally complex video, that I was responding to in my previous video, promotes a neoliberal view. My video is engaging with Devin's arguments and takes a position contrary to that neoliberal view, and therefore the people in the comments who agree with my opposing position are being perceived as fascists. The key word here is perceived. The original commenter doesn't exactly get it, and misrepresents another comment, and then he somehow jumps from the phrase suicidal empathy to accusing people of wanting genocide. The comment he misrepresents is a comment talking about the Spain immigration crisis and says there's a lot of ghouls in Spain right now, clearly relating the invading masses to the ghouls in the Tenpenny Tower quest that want to invade and take it for themselves. He is not literally relating them to ghouls from Fallout. Side note, I love how at the end of the comment he goes, "There's something else going on here." Like he's fucking Batman uncovering a conspiracy. Something here doesn't add up. The ghouls, Spain, suicidal empathy, genocide. There's something else going on here. Like, bro, you're reading way too deeply into a Fallout joke. Why the fuck do you think the residents of Tenpenny Tower are innocent? The whitest ass opinion here, LMAO. Thank you. As for why I think the Tenpenny Tower residents are innocent, probably because they didn't murder anyone and are just peacefully living in the tower. I know, crazy concept. This particular commenter, I think, was just trolling in these comments though, or maybe he is actually just deranged, I don't know. But he went on a spree of replying to everyone in the comments with shit like, "Get punched," and "You versus my fist," which I actually got a kick out of, and he was committed to the bit too. He kept replying to comments over the course of like 3 to 4 days. My favorite one has to be this one, and it's not even his comment that made me laugh, but the reply to it. He comments, "You seem like you'd have been on the wrong side of history in the 1950s and 60s. And a guy named Cool Ghoul responded with, "You seem like you'd be eaten by ghouls in 2277. Easily the best comment in the entire comment section. The next comment was from Muhammad Jafari, who said, "Sir Cher liked the racist comments. I always knew he was a racist right wing, and I strongly oppose what happened in Spain. But you people calling other races ghouls, roaches, etc., making bogus crimes like the 250K rape gang lie you intentionally falsified to incite your fellow racists to do pogroms, purge Europe, etc. You're just Nazis, and Nazis will get their comeuppance. You will not succeed in your evil plans." So when I read this, I was wondering what specific racist comments he was talking about in his comment. And I guess I should have assumed this considering the calling other races ghouls part of his comment. But this is the comment he was upset about me liking. It was the "lot of ghouls in Spain right now" comment. As for the calling other races roaches claim, I genuinely have no clue what the fuck he is talking about. I didn't even see a comment from anyone that said that. Granted, there are like 1,000 comments, so maybe I missed it, but I looked for quite a long time to try and find a comment like that, and couldn't. I don't even mention the rape gangs in Europe in my Fallout 3 quest video. Yes, we are still talking about that video. But I'd like to know what is the evidence that those reports are falsified. Also, it's pretty hilarious that when he makes his claim, he specifically uses the word pogroms, which are violent attacks against minorities, because of course, whites aren't a minority, despite making up less than 10% of the world population. Because he knows that if he just said acts of terror, it would be a very different demographic carrying out those in Europe. I don't know what Purge Europe is, whether it's a slogan or a group. I never said in my video, nor in the comments, that I support such a group, and of course he ends it off with the Nazi stuff. What evil plans do you think a gaming commentary YouTuber is hatching? Genuinely, what the fuck is wrong with these people's brains, dude? I made a video about a Fallout 3 quest. Finally, the last of these deranged comments that I will cover is a comment about a joke I made in my video, which was, "What is the phrase? They cry out as they strike you." You mean the Hitler phrase? The phrase that Hitler said? The one he said before he murdered millions of people to justify murdering millions of people? That phrase? Could you maybe choose a different phrase to quote? Brother, chill. Big H never said that phrase literally ever, nor did he ever write it. No, I'm not gonna rewrite a joke about a Fallout 3 quest because someone on the internet saw 7 words and immediately had a fucking aneurysm. Enough of that utter insanity. Let's get into some of the comments that actually address points in the video. So this first comment from Unreal Rhapsody, who says, "You had me until you brought up politics into this mess. Politics have nothing to do with just having bad opinions, and a lack of understanding as it can come from both sides. And why don't you criticize Bethesda more for making this quest that clearly has some radical ideas on race and stereotypes? Your opinion can be boiled down to, this group of people is bad because they did bad things, and this dude is an idiot for saying we should be sympathetic to their cause." Now, I had a little back and forth with this guy, and it's on screen if you want to read it, but I want to better dissect his comment for the video. First of all, I did not bring politics into the discussion. I simply continued it. Devin in his video directly brings politics to the forefront, and as my video was antithetical to his in nature, obviously I'm going to address the political component of the argument. So I think it's important to note that my political section was literally 10 seconds long. That's what this guy is complaining about. And the section was just pointing out Devin's shit political statement in his video. And then the claim that politics has nothing to do with bad opinions. Politics has a huge amount to do with having bad opinions, as politics is fundamentally about competing ideas on how society should work. Genuinely, I don't know what he means here. He's right that people on both sides can have bad opinions, but that doesn't just negate my claims that Devon's politics are shit just because some boomer right-winger might have a stupid-ass opinion as well. He claims I didn't criticize Bethesda enough, despite the whole video being about how Tenpenny Tower is a failed attempt at a moral dilemma. He literally took that 10-second segment from a 16-minute video about Bethesda's shitty writing and went, wow, you could have criticized Bethesda more instead of talking about politics. My brother in Christ, that was what the entire video was. In fact, let me play the closing thesis of my video. If the supposedly moral ending ends with innocent people butchered and the only alternative is killing the people who are openly threatening violence from the beginning, then this quest isn't an impossible moral dilemma. It's a failed one. My entire argument was that Bethesda failed to construct the moral dilemma that they were attempting to create. So yes, I am criticizing Bethesda, and I did so quite extensively in that video. Finally, he ends up strawmanning me by saying I made the claim that you can't be sympathetic to ghouls because this one group is bad. I never said the ghouls don't deserve sympathy. I never said that you can't or shouldn't be sympathetic to the ghouls' cause. I argued that this specific group of ghouls are barbaric raiders and the aggressors, and that the residents of Tenpenny Tower are not morally obligated to peacefully accept a group of hostile people into their home. I won't go through all of his replies, but I will note that he went back on this straw man and basically said, well, you didn't say it, but you were thinking it. And by the way, just because you didn't outright say that ghouls don't deserve sympathy, it's easy to tell that's what you were trying to imply with how many times you brought up that the bigots were actually right and would have been better off if they just killed the ghouls. Apparently, we're just reading minds now. I obviously replied and said yes, they would be better off killing the aggressors that are scheming to sack their home. And I also explained that I put emphasis on the descriptor bigots multiple times because that is how the game presents the residents, as when they are in actuality, not all bigots. It was a slight at Bethesda's writing that tricks you into thinking the tower is full of bigots when there are actually only around 5 in the entire tower. Ironically, that's exactly what this commenter said he wanted me to do more of. He says I should have criticized Bethesda more for the racial stereotypes and the way the quest is written. That's literally what I'm doing when I criticize the game for presenting the residents as bigots when the actual residents don't match that description. So somehow, the thing he is criticizing me for not doing enough is also one of the things he is criticizing me for doing in the first place. Funny how that works. The next comment is from our good friend WM, who was the guy leaving 500 comments saying he was going to punch everyone in the comments. And this reply was the reply that tipped me off that he was a total troll. He responds to a comment saying, also, notice how none of these conversations required skill checks in reference to convincing the residents to let the ghouls live in the tower. And this guy comments, they literally all require skill checks. I remember playing the game on my old 360 and seeing what would happen if I tried convincing them. Also, in the Fallout wiki for the quest, it says that there are speech 60 checks. Never trust the editing of bigotry apologists. I really don't even know what to say here. There are only 4 people who you have to pass the speech check for, which are the actual bigots. And the rest of the residents have no speech checks to convince them. There was no deceptive editing there at all. The wiki only has those 5 listed. Yes, 5 because there is a couple, but you only have to pass the speech check on one of them because they are the only ones you are required to convince to leave, as they are the only ones who will have a problem if the ghouls move in. Maybe if you played the game in recent time instead of only once in 2008, you'd be able to remember this. David typed, "It's pretty cool to write off one of 3 options based on the foreknowledge you have as the player of what the following game script is." I'm assuming he's talking about when I explain the peaceful option and how it has the same result as siding with the ghouls because it results in the deaths of all the residents, part of the video. But I'm not sure how that is writing off one of the endings. I covered the entire ending and then said at the end, it is equivalent to siding with the ghouls. That's not writing off the ending. I am making a design argument. I'm saying that within the game's actual outcomes, the peaceful ending does not constitute a distinct peaceful resolution, and therefore is the same as siding with the ghouls to massacre the residents. That is completely different from just saying, I know what happens because I played Fallout 3, therefore I don't like this option. I also got other comments basically saying the peaceful option is morally complex because you think it's the good and peaceful ending until the game rug pulls you and all the residents die. The problem with this argument is that it mistakes shock value for moral complexity. It is not morally complex for the game to lie to you and lead you to believe that there is a peaceful option when in actuality there is not one. A morally complex dilemma would be where you are presented with 2 competing values or interests and forced to pick one over the other. A simple example of a moral dilemma is choosing whether or not to break the law and steal someone else's bread to feed to another starving person. There's no clear moral answer. In one case, you are stealing another person's food and violating their property rights. In the other, you are leaving a starving man hungry. In Bethesda's case, it basically goes like, you can convince the man with the bread to give half of his bread to the starving man, but when the man goes to gift the slice of bread to the starving man pulls out a knife and guts him. That is not a moral dilemma. You aren't forced to choose between 2 morally complicated options. You aren't forced to weigh competing principles or make some horrible sacrifice. The game just lied to you about what your choice would accomplish. Which twists are fine to use in stories or games, but to call it morally complex would just be incoherent. The next guy goes, deleting comments? Pathetic. To which I responded, I have deleted no comments. YouTube will flag your comment if you fill it with slurs, death threats, or other phrases deemed not appropriate for YouTube. Retard. And he then responds saying, didn't use insults or anything like you, buddy. While also liking his comments, by the way. I always love comments like this because he clearly called me pathetic and insulted me first for something I didn't even do. But when I call him a retard, he recoils and puts on a sad puppy face and goes, I didn't insult you. You literally did. You don't get to walk into someone else's home, call them pathetic, and then clutch your pearls when they call you an idiot in response. Bossa Shark and I had a back and forth that you can read if you want. I'm not going to dive into it because it is a pretty stupid claim he made. He basically confused gameplay mechanics with lore by saying if you bring a hostile NPC to Tenpenny, he'll shoot at them, even though most NPCs, if not all of them, will attack hostile NPCs. So that doesn't really prove anything. Not to mention he dodges my refute that was, why didn't he snipe Roy then? Because if he was inherently hostile to ghouls, surely he'd snipe Roy on one of the many returns he has to the tower. And he just repeats what he said again. The reason I wanted to include this comment chain though was because the guy said, replying to people under my own video is funny. How fucking retarded do you have to be? You waste time writing a response to my video, post it publicly under my video, and then you're surprised that I'd reply? What the fuck did you think was gonna happen? Let me formulate this claim that I'm going to post under this video, but not want a response from the video creator. If you don't want the creator to respond to your comment, maybe you shouldn't have made the comment in the first place. Finally, the last painful response that I will have in this video is the comment that says, the fact that there's so much real-life debate around this quest's morals kind of proves it's morally complex. Your creation of this video proves yourself wrong. Ah, yes. If you argue that something is simple, that proves it's not simple because you talked about it. You heard it here first, folks. Every subject becomes complex the second two people disagree about it. Fucking brilliant.
I hate it in here. For the first time in a long time, I feel like where I'm not supposed to be.
If there's anything I'd want people to take away from this video, it would be this. I made a video on a Fallout 3 quest. These left-leaning progressives flooded the comments, not disagreeing with me, but labeling me as a racist, fascist, and Nazi. And one even came out and said, "We will kill fascists." All for a pretty tame video on a Fallout 3 quest. And I want to be clear, I make these videos for people like me. If people who disagree want to converse in my comments and contend with my ideas, then that's great too. I'm not moralizing here. I already knew this is how these people operate. I am simply making this video to tell you, the person watching this that might hold some right-wing ideas, that I would never advise any of you to try to convince these leftist progressives of anything politically, or if you do, don't make the mistake that they are arguing with you in good faith. In their mind, you are a Nazi the second you disagreed with them. Phew. Sorry for getting so political. I don't exactly hide my thoughts or opinions in any of my videos, really ever. But I think this is the first video I have made that has been majorly political. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, subscribe, like, and comment. It really helps out the channel a lot. I also have dollar memberships if you're interested, but that's all I have for you today. I'll see you guys in the next one. And remember, don't you dare go hollow.